amigas que nos estão a ver mais uma vez neste podcast do Alma Café, nesta nossa brincadeira das nossas almas e que, pá, eu acho que nós estamos a ganhar o ritmo da coisa. A Carla Ender ainda não tem imagem, mas nada temam. Isto há de aparecer com o tempo, ela está-se a embelezar para que depois, a dada altura, corra bem. Bom, hoje temos um episódio especial. Ele não será na íntegra em português. Nós temos um convidado connosco muito especial, é o Christopher L. Jones, um jovem muito simpático da Nova Zelândia, que vai lançar brevemente um livro, no caso, no próximo mês, que é totalmente dedicado ao povo português, à nossa história e àquilo que o Christopher conheceu de Portugal ao longo dos últimos 4 anos, norte a sul do país, ilhas, ele visitou tudo. E portanto ele decidiu escrever uma carta de amor a Portugal e ao povo português. Dar as boas noites aqui ao painel, antes de chamarmos o nosso convidado. Boa noite, Paulo, Cátia, Carla. Como é que foi a vossa semana? Como é que vocês estão? O que é que vos vai na alma?
Boa noite, Cátia. Boa noite a todos que nos estão a assistir. Minha semana foi ótima. Não sei a vossa, a minha foi ótima. Sempre boas energias.
Boa noite para quem nos está a ouvir. A minha semana foi corrida, mas foi uma boa semana.
Bom, a minha semana é sempre a mesma coisa. Muita paz, muitos amigos, muita alegria, high vibes e pronto.
Sempre com a alma em alta, não é, amiga?
O astral lá em cima.
Sim.
É o que se quer, é o que se quer, é pá. Pois é, nós...
E a tua semana, Cátia, não nos queres contar?
A minha semana...
Esse suspiro foi horrível.
A minha semana foi muito interessante, Paulo Ribeiro. A minha semana foi boa, pá, foi muito boa. Claro que nada é perfeito e, portanto, também tive aqui uns momentos atribulados da alma, não tanto pela minha alma ou pela minha vida em particular, mas sim pela vida de todos os portugueses e todas as almas portuguesas espalhadas neste mundo e não só, e mais além. Portanto, aquilo que temos estado a observar no mundo em geral é preocupante. Mas sobre esses temas temos os nossos espaços no X. Sigam o Alma Café no X para a malta que está a ver isto no YouTube ou no Twitch. Juntem-se a nós todas as manhãs, segunda a sexta, a Carla Ender e eu temos o Café da Alma, onde comentamos notícias, falamos essencialmente de tudo aquilo que nos vai na alma, de tudo aquilo que nos indigna e perturba, mas também de tudo aquilo que nos alegra. Aí sim... Claro, às vezes começamos o dia muito bem, outras vezes o dia começa de uma forma mais atribulada, mas também faz parte, mas no geral a minha semana foi muito boa, Paulo Ribeiro. Então não é que fiquei hoje a saber que tenho um clube de fãs no Discord, mais de 70 pessoas que se juntam lá todos os dias para falar bem do Alma Café e da Cátia Santos, maravilhoso, não é?
Espetacular, publicidade gratuita, que espetáculo.
Não percebi, desculpa.
Publicidade gratuita, que espetáculo.
Não é? Maravilhoso, pá. Um grande beijinho para todos vocês do grupo do Discord, pá. Mais de 60 pessoas, é espetacular, realmente. Nós temos um alcance brutal.
Se quiserem publicitar a minha marca, também podem, é? Está aqui.
Olha, a tua tem a tua marca, a minha tem a marca daquilo que infelizmente já pouco se faz em Portugal, mas que aqui está feito à medida, com o meu nome, algures perto da Serra da Estrela. O nosso artesanato é muito importante e um dia vamos falar desta loja de muitas gerações, desta oficina de muitas gerações, e eu faço questão de beber a minha água aqui no podcast e não só através disto, mas ou deste utensílio aqui, deste recipiente, mas um dia haveremos de falar, porque faz parte da nossa alma também e é importante manter viva as nossas tradições. Bom, sem mais demoras, meus caros, temos uma boa alma à nossa espera que dedicou parte do seu tempo a escrever um livro que se chama Mite Tugas. E sem mais demoras, vamos então conhecer o Chris. Pode ser? Carla, tu ficas connosco ou queres ir então para o backstage?
Eu vou para o backstage porque acho que ainda fica horrível este quadrado preto no meio de vocês todos. Eu vou sair e vou estar a ver os
Não
comentários
sais
ao lado.
nada, vais para o backstage.
Não, mas eu saio daqui, mas estou a ver também estou a ver aqui no outro lado. Porque
Então,
fica
se
muito
faz
feio
favor,
depois com coisa.
vai vendo os comentários, por
Sim, sim,
favor, vai
sim, sim.
respondendo
Sim,
e
sim.
vai estando
Eu vou
atento.
estando, sim, eu vou sair daqui porque fica horrível, tá? Até já.
Muito bem, beijinho, tchau Carlinha.
Tá, até já. Tchau, tchau.
Até já. Bom, sem mais demoras, vamos então passar aqui só um segundo, exatamente. Chris, welcome to Alma Café.
Welcome, Chris.
Thank
First
you.
and
Thank you
foremost,
all.
thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be here with us. I apologize already for my poor English, but those two,
Gosh.
they are perfect, I believe, or at least much better than me. And we will have here, I'm sure, a great conversation with you. Chris, the first question for you. Who is Christopher L. Jones and what brought you to Portugal? Let's start with that question and then we will go from there. Thank
It's
you.
the hardest question. I hate talking about myself. And I have to thank you very much for you all for having me tonight. And I apologize for this terrible light in my screen. I am a New Zealander. I live in Lisbon and I've lived here for 6 years, almost 7. I am a commercial property investor. I originally came here in 2016 when I was working for a UK company, and we came to look at opening an office here in 2016, and unfortunately we didn't. But then I came back at the end of 2018, the start of 2019, I moved here, and I've been here since. And I now have a wife and a Portuguese son named Vasco.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah.
And how did the idea for Mite Tugas, your book, came out?
It seemed obvious because, obviously there are a lot of foreigners that live in this country, and I'm friends with many foreigners that live in this country, and there are very few books written in English about Portugal. I mean, there are thousands of books written every year about Paris, and arguably there's 1 or 2 written every 2 years about Portugal, and it seemed such an obvious thing to do. I've written books in the past. This is actually my second book. I'm writing a third, but it just seemed like an obvious thing to do. And also, I have a passion for this country. I have a passion for this country. I have a passion for the people, and essentially it's an expression of my passion.
And how has Portugal impacts your personal and professional life? And then I will pass. These are my 3 first questions for you,
Sure.
and then we will go on.
Well, I have a wife now and a kid, and that's obviously a huge impact.
You met
both
your
of
wife,
those-
so am I understanding right? You met your wife in
I did.
Portugal?
I did, yeah. I met her when she's English.
Portugal brought you to the love of your life. That's why you love us so much.
That is exactly what she tells me. Exactly, that's right. No, she moved here. I mean, she's English. I moved here at the end of 2018. There were 450,000 foreigners living in the country at that point. Today there are 1.5 million. And so I felt like, when I arrived, I thought I was doing something of independent thought. And then I realized actually there's a lot of people turning up. But then COVID happened and a whole new wave of people turned up. And part of that wave was my wife. And so we met during COVID at the end of 2020. And then we got married 2 years later. And then we had a son last year.
So good. That's actually amazing that you met, like I said, you met the love of, we Portuguese, I believe we are very passionate souls, and it is normal that the love happens in Portugal. So I'm happy for you that you find your wife in Portugal and you met
Thank
your
you.
love in Portugal.
I'm not the only one though. A lot of my friends have met their partners. Who knows? Maybe it's my age. I'm 39. I turned 40
It's
next month.
Sant'Antonio, Chris.
Is it Sant Antonio? Of course.
Sant'Antonio
Exactly. Yes.
is false.
Yes. Maybe it's
That's
him.
how you can explain it.
Maybe it's him. But
Well,
I'm not the only one. A lot of people, a lot of my
Yeah.
friends have met their partners in this country.
I
and it's-
also, Chris, let me tell you, I'm Portuguese, but I live in Switzerland since 1998.
Wow.
And then I went back, and I then met my husband in Lisbon, and I brought him along to Switzerland.
He's Portuguese?
He's Portuguese.
Okay, right.
You see?
You
So-
pulled along. Was it a drag or was it an easy
I
pull?
had to go back, found my husband, and then I came back to Switzerland.
Oh,
Well,
congratulations.
let's keep the focus on you, because you are our guest today, and I forgot, for those who didn't heard us promoting this episode on X. Perhaps it's important also to ask you, Chris, Meet the Tugas. What's
Yes.
that book about?
Meet the Tugas it basically follows. I spent 4 years traveling through the country, and I went to every single corner and every single small town that I could think of in this country. I went to all the islands, and over that course of the 4 years, the book follows me as I travel through the country. And the focus of the book, one, is my own experience going through the country, but secondly is about picking up the history as I go. And so the idea about the book is, for a foreigner, an English-speaking foreigner, is that you read this book and you would have a broad understanding of the country's history and the country's geography. It's like it's a good starting point to understand the context of this country.
Great. You wrote on the front cover, because you will launch the book next month, right?
This month, on the
This is
25th.
25.
On the 25th, yeah.
Oh, the Paulo
It
Nova.
actually went on pre-sale today, but on the 25th of June, it's in bookstores.
Great. Paulo, you did your homework, huh?
Thank you, Paulo.
Yes.
You wrote on the cover that it's a love letter to Portugal and its people.
It is.
I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
We
Well,
need
thank you,
love.
but
We
It's
need a lot of love in nowadays.
yeah,
Portuguese
well,
and
you're
Portugal.
receiving a lot of love. The country receives a lot of love. There is a happiness amongst the expats that move here. And why I said it's a love letter to Portugal and its people, I mean, it's not, it's the whole country, good and bad, tragedy and grandeur. But it's, I love this country, and this country has been good to me, and it's sort of a celebration of the country. It's a celebration of the entire history. It's a celebration of everything this country has achieved. It talks about the tragedy that this country's been through, and and now this renewal that it feels like this country's going through.
Great. Yes. That's a lot to talk about.
Yes, it is.
We
Step
will
by
not
step,
go
yes.
on the details, but you are more than invited and welcome to join us anytime you want. We always talk, because the Alma Café purpose is to talk about the Portuguese soul in all its dimensions. History-wise, culture-wise, about the good parts of it, about the bad parts of it as well, about the actual situation we are in as a country and as a people, but mostly it's about to remember our connection to our Portuguese soul. And so, as I saw your book cover, I really felt, no, even if you're not Portuguese, you are in some way connected to our Portuguese soul. So that's why it's so important for you to be here.
Thank you, but I am Portuguese. I'm actually almost a citizen. So,
Oh,
so I call
okay.
myself semi-Portuguese, almost Portuguese, once I get that passport.
Okay. So I will pass now to Paulo because I know Paulo has some questions ready for you. Paulo.
Hello, Chris. It's a pleasure to meet you and to know your story. So I have a question here, but Carla, tell you the same questions. So I don't like to flow scripts. So let's see. I do my research and I see your LinkedIn and your Instagram, and I can see that you
Okay.
travel a lot.
Did you say travel or drink?
Travel
Oh,
a
travel,
lot.
right. Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yes, I have. That's right.
You have a very interesting life. I can see and on the photos, and I know that you like history too, because you do text about the history of Portugal, and very interesting life I can see in the photos. And you are an entrepreneur, investor, and you have a company called Tacos, I think. No?
That's right. Paco Services. That's right.
Yes, very good. So you have your company in Lisbon and you live in Lisbon.
Correct. Yes. My wife and I have a company called Paco Services. We have an office. We have an office in Porto. We have an office in Lisbon. We have 20 staff. It was a company that we set up 3 years ago. We support anyone, but principally 95% of our clients are foreigners, and we are just a helping hand. We're an ongoing helping hand in their business and personal life.
Very good. I like this part of the entrepreneurship. So you are from New Zealand? New Zealand? Yes. And how start in your mind to start a book for Portuguese people, for Portuguese culture?
Well, I didn't start the book for Portuguese people. I started the book for English-speaking foreigners. That was my initial target, because I wanted to share, what struck me was a couple of years ago, it was Abril 25, and the celebrations on the street are extraordinary, and for me, I understood the celebration and I appreciated the celebration, and there's a lot of joy. It's such a joyous period for the country, and the story is so rich. And yet, my expat friend, didn't know anything, and the music, everything's so so rich, and they didn't know anything, and it really struck me. It's like people need to know this. People need to know the fascinating history of Portugal, and every year there'll be 100 books written on Paris, and every year there are no books written on Portugal. And now that so many foreigners are moving here, it just seems so appropriate to share this history. And I'm not a historian, I'm just an enthusiast. I love this country, I love the history. The history is rich, the history is long, and it should be shared.
Very good. Yeah, thank you to do that for your country. So, what's the big difference that you see on your country? Because you travel a lot, you can see so much countries like in Europe and United States. I see that you go there too. So, what's the big difference about our country?
Well, so I'm born in New Zealand, and I went to school and university in Australia, and I worked in the UK for 3 years. And all of that is Anglo-Saxon. And Anglo-Saxon is not Portugal. It's vastly different. I mean, we are all descended from Europe, I suppose, but there is a significant difference between Anglo-Saxons and continental Europeans. And what's extraordinary about Europeans is that, the Portuguese are vastly different to the Spanish, despite from afar looking the same, seemingly being the same. But, there is vast differences between you guys. And you guys are completely different to the Italians, completely different to the French. So, I come from a country which is very similar to Australia, which is very similar to Canada, which is very similar to the UK. And so the Portuguese, there is a great difference. And those differences, they're rich. It kind of depends on what topic you're talking about and where the differences come through. But there is a great difference.
What do you like the most? The food, the persons? What do you like the most in our country?
Anytime a foreigner turns up in Portugal, the question that's asked them is that you're here because of the food. Everyone asks that. And the food is very different to where I'm from. The similarity between New Zealand and Portugal is that there is a focus on the fish. New Zealand is essentially a large island, and we have a very long coastline, so we eat a lot of fish. The fish are different, but it's not the food that I like about this place. You know, what I like about the country is the history is long and it's rich and it's deep. Portuguese are Portuguese. New Zealanders, we have 200 years of history. Our culture is, we do have a New Zealand culture, but it's only 200 years deep. Whereas the Portuguese culture is a deep well of, there's a richness to it. But what do I like about the country? I mean, the people. One of the appealing things about Portugal and the people are there's a gentleness to the place. There's a kindness to the people. It's very easy to come into Lisbon. It's very easy to come into Portugal and just, everything's very easy and very nice. No one's very loud. I love Spain. I love it. But Spanish is very loud, and that suits many people. But Portuguese are not loud. Portuguese is soft and gentle and calm. And people come here, and it's an enjoyable experience to be here.
Very good. Thank you so much, Chris. For me, it's a pleasure to know your story, and I can see in your voice and your eyes that you love the country. So thank you so much for that.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much, Paulo. Thank you, Chris. Chris, as you probably notice, we are still learning how to do this podcast, so please
No, please.
feel
So am
free
I.
to give us feedback and tips how you think we can do it better, because we are really in the beginning. So thank you for your patience.
Vice versa.
Katia, do you have some questions for our guest?
Yes. Chris, I'm also somebody that came from another country. I'm here now for almost 28 years, and I opted to be Portuguese and remain here. And I somewhat understand the calling you had to choose Portugal to live and to raise your family. I, do you hear some echo?
No?
Okay. I see your eyes, I see your heart. I am the soul watcher, not properly. And we really see that you have chosen Portugal because something switched when you came to know this country. It's not only the history, it's not only the people, maybe something that you feel inside aligned energetically to the way Portuguese people are and the way Portuguese people live. Did you feel that? Did you feel this is like home for me?
Well, Katia, two of the things that I love most in life, drinking and smoking, and Portuguese
Oh,
know that very well. So that is definitely an appeal. That is
yeah.
definitely an appeal of this country. Yes, that's definitely one of the things.
Are you so happy when you are in other countries the same way you are showing us here now, without wine and smoke right now, at least?
Look, yes, I suppose I am. Look, Portugal is a rich tapestry. It's not. There are frustrations in this country that I feel, and that's the whole thing. The interesting thing about Portugal is that it's gone through a process. It's gone through a process where I feel of like a renewal. But there are frustrations that I feel in this country too. But I feel that they are becoming overcome. If I had arrived in this country 20 years ago, maybe I'd have a different experience. This country is going through a story of growth right now, and that is part of the joy of it.
So when you wake up in the morning, you open your window, what's the call you have to be here?
Gosh, it's a tough question. I'm not sure. What is the calling? I mean, I have a son, so when I wake up in the morning, I have to go and change the nappy of my son.
Oh, I said open your window, not to...
Well, that's because he only changes his nappy. I have to open the window. But look, I have two businesses in this country. This country has been good to me. I arrived what I feel like was the right time, and I have two businesses in this country that have grown alongside the growth of this country, and so I think that drives me. But the other thing is that people are happy. Foreigners that live here are happy. If you go to New York, or if you go to London, people say, look, New York's great, London's great, but I need to leave. No one says that in Lisbon. In my experience, no one says that.
Yeah, maybe it's because of the blue sky.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's a factor. That is totally a factor. The weather. I mean, if we talk, my favorite city in this country is Porto, and Porto rarely has blue sky. It has blue sky for 3 months, but Lisbon, Lisbon and South always has blue sky, and that is absolutely a factor.
Last question. What do you see? We have lots of young people here, people that come from other countries, and that, of course, fills all spaces with high vibes and happiness and wine and cigarettes, right?
Good thing.
But we also have an old country, lots of old people that some are struggling to go through all these changes that the young ones easily handle. As you have been traveling to distant lands and to islands, how did you feel the integration of the young people and the elders? And how do you see the next future for the old people in Portugal?
It's interesting, writing a book about the history of Portugal, one of the things that I really felt, and an interesting factor of Portuguese history, is the Salazar period. And I feel that the Salazar period has cast a shadow across the next generation. And that next generation is not the current generation, but that next generation, that generation that it casts a shadow across, is the elderly people. And so it's quite a nuanced question. I mean, when my wife was pregnant and subsequently as we've had a young child, it's an extraordinary experience when you're in a supermarket queue and an elderly person will not only ask, will insist that you go to the front of the queue. That is rare. In my experience of where I've lived in the world, people don't do that. And so there's that beauty in that. There's something nice about these, I don't know what you'd call them, maybe old-fashioned values, I'm not sure. But with that being said, there's also perhaps maybe a resistance to change from the elderly. And this country is changing so fast. It's almost like it's gentrifying. The entire country is gentrifying, and gentrification usually happens on a suburb-wide scale. Whereas in this instance, it's happening across Lisbon. It's happening across Porto. And obviously, with any time there's gentrification, there are winners and losers. And in this instance, the losers happen to be the elderly Portuguese, and obviously there's a sadness to that. But gentrification is, I mean, who knows, what do you want to call it? It's progress, but there's always winners and losers, and it seems to be that the losers are the previous generation.
Yeah, so that's important to keep their memories alive. In
Yes.
your book, in this initiative of the Alma Café and so many others, keep the history in and keep the old people tradition and memory alive. Thank you so much, Chris.
I have a question, if I can do it, Katia. So, Chris, you have a global vision about the world and everything. So, what you can see that Portugal can improve? What areas that you see that Portugal can improve something about the system of politicals, or something that you see that the country have good it's possible to improve in some areas, in your opinion?
Portugal has a number of strengths. And one of those strengths is the fact that everyone speaks English. And that makes it easy. I mean, if you move to, you can go to Madrid, you can stay at a nice hotel in the middle of Madrid, and the hospitality staff won't speak English. And nor should they. You know, why should they speak English? But you can go you can go to any major capital in Portugal and everyone speaks English. And that is an enormous plus. That's an enormous plus for people to move here, and it's an enormous plus for people to establish businesses here. But I think there is an overhang of a bureaucratic system. And, you know, Luis Montenegro has announced that he's declaring this war on bureaucracy. And he's announced that because he's recognized it. There is bureaucracy in this country. And that bureaucracy, every country has bureaucracy, it's how society works. But the bureaucracy in this country is thick and slow. I have my second business is a commercial property business, and to get licenses to do construction takes, in some instances, years. And obviously, for one, that slows down the economy. But secondly, that is not what happens in other countries. It's obviously not unique to Portugal, but that is a thing in Portugal. And so that is a challenge that could be overcome.
That's why I ask you, because when I see that you are an entrepreneur and investor, I see, the system is so hard to do business here. So this is why I ask you, you know, because entrepreneur in Portugal, for me, it's a big challenge. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. It's actually not, it is a big challenge, but it's not that big of a challenge. You know, there are laws in this country, when you compare them to, say, Spain, that are actually far more liberal and far more flexible. It's just that as soon as you interact with the government on any level, everything slows down. And it shouldn't have to do that. You know, why does it have to be slow? It can be fast.
Yes, because if the system works good, the companies come here more fast, you know.
Completely. You know, the government's role is not to provide employment. The government's role is to provide an environment in which businesses create employment. And, you know, one of the challenges of this country are low wages. But if you had big companies coming here and employing people, wages would naturally increase. But, you know, the challenge to that is the bureaucracy.
The economy grows when you do
Massively.
this. Yeah.
Massively.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulo. Well, Chris, I have to ask, are you planning to learn Portuguese?
God, estou a aprender.
Estás a aprender?
É muito difícil. Eu passei o meu teste de cidade, como se diz?
Cidadania.
Cidadania, exatamente. I passed my citizenship test, so I have learned to a level. I wish I could learn more. My son will obviously speak Portuguese, and if he comes home speaking to me in Portuguese and I can't understand him, that's obviously a bad thing. So yes, my intention and my daily struggle is to learn Portuguese.
You really need to learn, Chris.
I do. I agree.
Because to be fully connected with our Portuguese soul, it is required. You will see the difference. You will feel you will mostly feel the difference when you learn Portuguese. The connection with the Portuguese culture is and soul is enorme.
Eu concordo.
Enorme. Ajudem-me.
Eu concordo.
Tu concordas, Chris?
Concordo.
Não é verdade?
Sim.
Pronto.
So, Chris, we want to listen you speak Portuguese.
Oh God, no! Please don't.
Just some words.
Impossível.
You just did, Paulo.
Como se diz embarrassing? Não sei a palavra.
Está envergonhado, ele
Eu
está
sei.
tímido.
I know. Just a few words that you know.
Eu já.
Ele já falou.
Eu já falei. O que é que tu queres agora, Ribeiro? Chris, back to your book. As I understood, your book is a result from 4 years living in Portugal and traveling across Portugal, country and islands. Can you share with us a couple of experiences that really set, how do you say,
Struck
the
me.
fire inside of you for Portugal?
I mean, obviously there are many, but the one that this is the second time that this has been asked of me, and the one that struck me most was that. So I've lived here for 6 years, and I started traveling 4 years ago to do it. And how I would do it is whenever I had a moment of free time, I would leave my wife at home, give her a kiss, and then go off for 5 days and then come back. And to plan that 5 days, I would stare at Google Maps and start building my itinerary. Right, these are the places I want to go. What is the driving distance between each place? Blah, blah, blah. And when I was driving deep in Alentejo, I was looking around Beja and Vidigara, and this one part of Alentejo popped out, and it was called Quinta do Carmo. And it was this tiny quinta in the middle of the Alentejo plains. And I just clicked on it and I thought, okay, that looks interesting. And then I studied it a little bit more, and it's not open to the public, it's a privately owned quinta. And it was the house of Vasco da Gama. And I just discovered it. And I discovered it by staring at Google Maps. And I just clicked on it, and then, oh my gosh, this is the house of Vasco da Gama. This is incredible. So I emailed the owner of the house. It was the daughter. And she said, yes, if you would like to have a tour, we have to arrange it. So I met the owner of the house, and he toured me through the house. And this is where Vasco da Gama lived in the 15th and 16th century. And I went through this extraordinary tour of this private quinta where the owner, I wish I could remember his name, but the owner explained to me that in 1898, when the government came and exhumed the bones of Vasco da Gama because he was buried there, they took the bones and took him to Geronimo's monastery. And now you can go to Geronimo's monastery and visit the bones of Vasco da Gama. But he said, the thing is, they took the wrong bones. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah. And I said, how can you tell that? And he said, well, all the bones were mixed together for one. There's generations of people piled on the top. And the thing about Vasco da Gama is that he was buried in Goa for 30 years before the Portuguese took his bones and brought them back to Portugal. And in those 30 years, the soil had stained his bones yellow. And so the yellow bones, when they exhumed the body 300, 400 years later, weren't yellow. And the yellow bones remain in the quinta. And he said, the Vasco da Gama's bones are beneath your feet. And I was like, oh my God. And that felt like, I mean, one, it was extraordinary because I'd been reading about Vasco da Gama, but two, it felt like I discovered something. And when I came home, I said to my wife, I was like, Emily, this is, I discovered Vasco da Gama's bones today, and deep in Alentejo. That struck me a lot.
You don't listen to Kátia.
No.
Nós estamos a ouvir, Kátia. Micro.
You are mute, and I'm black.
I'm sorry. I was saying, you see, I'm Portuguese, and I didn't know that they took the wrong bones.
Look, he might have been lying. Who knows?
We have to check that story.
That's not the official story.
Unfortunately, our history guy is today. We have two, Custódio and Paulo Almeida, but they are not available tonight. So, but we will write it down, Ribeiro. We need to check this history, this story, if it's truth or not. But it's a great story. A great story.
It might be completely false.
It's a story in your book, Chris?
It's the story in my book, yes. So I hope it's not false.
Okay.
Chris, where the people can find your book, Press Salesman?
On the 25th of June, they'll be able to find it in bookstores across the country. So
Okay.
FNAC, there are some English bookstores in Porto, in Lisbon, that's available. I don't know the exact bookstores. I know it's in FNAC.
Okay.
I
You
will
can
be.
promote
I will be
your
Lisbon.
salesman.
I'm sorry, Ribeiro.
I need a salesman. I'm not doing it.
I'm sorry, Paulo. I spoke over you. I don't know what. Can you repeat, please?
You this or Chris, I tell the Chris that he can promote his book here, the salesman, because on 25 the book goes to a shop or Chris tell that FNAC, the people that see this podcast can find the book on FNAC and shops like that.
Yes, correct. Thank you. Yes.
Great. I hope I can find one to buy when I arrive in Lisbon. I will be arriving the 6th of July, so I hope you don't sell out till then.
I
hope
can
I
go
do.
there
I
and
hope I
pick
do.
one for
Yeah.
us, Katya.
We want to
Thank
buy it. What you have? What is your way of thinking about the salesman and what you want to achieve with this book?
I'm not going to make money from it. It's not that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I wish I could. There's no particular reason. I mean, I want to share. I love talking about the history of this country, and I want to share that history with my fellow expats, let's call them. But I mean, that's it. I just want to share my passion for this country with other people.
Okay. So, Katya want to ask you something? Or not?
Yes, I also wanted to ask you, Chris, we really love our country and our nation. And some of us, we are concerned when we look at Portugal today, right? I'm 2,000 kilometers away. I'm near Zurich, but on a daily basis, I'm connected to Portugal by talking to my family, to my friends, also to the people online on X mostly. We are concerned about today's how do you say, with some things that are going on today, like you spoke before about gentrification, and my concern is not that much about that yet, perhaps, but more about another kind of migration, and the concern is because I see that Portugal does not have the capacity to embrace all these people. You see, I live in Switzerland, for instance, where the migration system is really tight and is really good, organized, and everyone knows the rules, everyone stays within the rules, and that guarantees this country a certain stability. Let's put it like that. I don't see that in Portugal, unfortunately. So that's one of my concerns. I know there are lots of people, because we, like I said before, we talk on a daily basis about these kind of concerns, and there are a lot of Portuguese people that are concerned that our culture is, due to this situation, migration situation, and others, of course, poor politics, the bureaucracy that you spoke about before, that it's not only bad for you that come from outside and want to invest in Portugal, but also for the Portuguese people in Portugal that do want to invest and do want to keep the country going, right? So, in your opinion, do you see that these concerns are real, or are only sensations, like someone said last year on the Portuguese national TV? Do you feel that Portuguese people have to be concerned, and do you see or feel that our culture is being dissipated, is not
Disappear.
totally lost, but yeah.
Sure. Look, when I arrived six or 7 years ago, there were 450,000 people in the country. 450,000 foreign-born people in the country, and today there are 1.5 million. That's an extraordinary amount of people to arrive in the space of 6 years. So obviously it's an issue. You know, everyone has a global view. People want to live in. Oh.
Ligou o micro, Kátia. Ligou o micro, Kátia.
Oh no, Kasia, I think your microphone's off.
I have to stop doing this to myself,
No.
muting myself all the time. I'm so sorry, Chris. I was just saying that our history guy just joined the party. It's okay. Please go on.
You know, so when I arrived, there were 450,000 foreign-born people in the country 6 years ago, and now there are 1.5 million. That's a massive, for a country of 11 million people. I mean, that's 10% of the population to increase in the space of 6 years, and that's foreign-born population. Obviously, for any country, for 10% of the population to swell in the space of 6 years, obviously that puts pressure on everything. You know, in my travels through the country, I went deep into the country and I went deep into small villages, and you know, across the entire world, villages are emptying out, and yet in the villages of Portugal, they're being replaced by foreigners. For better or worse, it's not to cast judgment, but when you have 15% of the population of a village remaining that's Portuguese, and 85% of it in the space of 4 or 5 years becoming foreign, there's no question of racism, there's no question of any phobia. It's just your culture has changed, and it hasn't just changed over the course of decades, it's changed overnight. And so obviously that creates anxiety, and obviously that puts pressure on services. And it's simply reflected by the fact that Chega won 25% of the vote. It's a real anxiety, and it's a real anxiety felt across Europe. And you know, it's an anxiety that is it is legitimate. It's just about processing the people, and it's about having the resources to incorporate the people. I mean, if someone came into this country and starts employing people, or is employed themselves and starts giving back to society, everyone wants that. There's no question about that. But when 1 million people turn up in the space of 6 years, there is no country that can take 10% of the population arriving in 5 years. There's no country that can do that. So yeah, I mean, that is a true anxiety. I think one of the things about Portugal is that because of the slowness of bureaucracy, it's an entry point into Europe. It's an easy way to get immigration into Europe. And a lot of the people here are transient, and they come to go into Europe. And so this becomes a sort of transient point, a transient point of entry. So of course that's an anxiety, and it's reflected by the election numbers. But whether the Portuguese culture is being dissipated, I mean, by sheer numbers, you would argue yes. But I think Portugal is becoming more international. And I think if you went 10 years ago, this was pure Portuguese, pure Portugal. But there are very few countries on earth that's pure anything.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go back. You would not go to London right now and say, you know what we need to do? We need to make this purely British, because no one would want that, including the British. Portugal has accelerated up to the modern world very fast, and overall it's a good thing. But there's friction on the way through.
Yeah. Well, I don't have myself. I am a migrant, right? I live in Switzerland. So I don't have a problem with migration. I do have a problem, as you said, it's like overnight, and by the way, it's not 10%, it's 20% of increase of our population, or 20% of our population are migrants right now. Looking at the capacity of our country to guarantee certain public services to the people, and I'm talking to the whole people that lives in Portugal, Portuguese and non-Portuguese, the capacity is not there, is not there for a long time already. So like I said, it is a concern. For me personally, not because I do not want migrants in Portugal, it's not the case. I agree with you. It is needed in the sense that it's okay and it's productive for a country and the people to bring other cultures as well inside, and to know other cultures and integrate other cultures. But the thing is, it cannot, in my opinion, be to a very high price, like giving up, or that giving up your own culture as a country, as a people, as a nation, or that your own culture is less present than the other cultures that are joining Portugal. You see what I mean? So, and I have the same opinion that I have about what's going on in Portugal. It's the same I would have here in Switzerland if that came to happen, which is not the case, and I do not believe Swiss government will allow something like that. And we do have a lot of different cultures here in Switzerland, and people from all over the world. But like I said, there is this balance that is needed, is here, and the balance in this case is the local culture, and the local people need to be in their element, and then we as foreigners, we join the party and we bring something to the table, but not we do not take the table away. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, you look at the most successful city on earth, and it's New York. And New York, I mean, what is the nationality of New York? It's impossible to say. The thing that what's happening with Portugal is it's happening abruptly. Yeah. It's happening overnight, where there's 1 million people in 5 years. That is, obviously the services can't keep up, and obviously the culture changes dramatically. There's no time for things to meld into it. So the question isn't whether, from my perspective, the question isn't whether we want more immigration. The question is, at what pace do we do it?
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Well, let me welcome Paulo, the second Paulo. You see, the thing here, Chris, in Alma Café is we love each other so much, we, the panel, that we have two Katias, two Paulos.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
we have
we come in pairs.
We have 3 Paulos, because the third Paulo is not here today. But Paulo,
You want to speak, Paulo? How are you?
are you there?
Yeah. I don't know which of Paulo it is, but I believe it's with myself.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Are you not going to open your camera?
well, I'm not very presentable because I'm just arrived now from the work, as you know, and I'm sorry for
That's
the
not
late.
that's
Let me.
your
Let me.
excuse, please.
Okay.
Paulo.
Yeah.
Hello, Paulo.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, Chris. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
Another
too.
Paulo. Hello, another Paulo. And I have
Hello,
Katia
Paulo.
here, and the other
Nice to
Katia
see
there.
you too.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Well, thank you in the first place for waiting for me. I'm sorry, and I'm very pleased with your presence, Chris. I believe we have lots to speak and to many ideas to change, and can be a good place. There's something wrong now with the video recording. Wait.
Nope.
Chris, he already told you. There's a lot of things we need to speak about and that I need to teach you, and you have to change. He's our specialist in the Estado Novo period, okay, in Salazar. So,
Okay, now it is. I'm back. You know the problem with my internet, Chris. Everybody in the spaces of X knows the story. I used to steal the connections from the gypsies here, and they are not very stable. It's very expensive, so why should I pay if I can get it free from them? So, but I have to pay the price. It's not very nice. Okay, I'm sorry to disturb you. Okay,
so it's your
No,
turn.
Kathy.
No, Paulo, it's your turn. We are almost, yeah, it's almost 50 minutes of interview. Chris is tired of us. We are going to be silent now, and you can interview Chris and bring your
I don't.
questions, Paulo. Please be gentle.
Oh, for
don't
sure.
be gentle,
I
Paul.
don't know. No, Chris. Okay. I'm not here since the beginning, so I don't know at the course of the conversation. But Katya told me that you are about to publish a book. How it is the name? Tuga.
Meet,
Sorry,
meet,
Meet the Tugas.
Meet
meet the
Meet
two.
Tuga. Well, it's a wonderful. I must very pleased because it's a wonderful title of the book. And well, I'm here to help you. In fact, I don't know what is the content of the book, of what you speak about. If it's about our traditions or about our history. Well, I don't know nothing because I don't know the book. In fact, so I'm more interested in hear from you than give you my opinion. Okay. So I don't know. Can you please, Chris, put me on the on the track about the book or what it is about? And the first question for you is why a book about Tugas? Okay, it's my first question.
Sure. The book about why the book about the Tugas, or why the book about the history of Portugal, is because my expats, my foreigner friends, know very little about the history of Portugal, and they've all arrived in the last 5 years, and there's very little access to Portuguese history in an English setting. I said it before, but there would be 100 books a year written about Paris, and there's maybe one, and I couldn't even name it, written in English about Portugal, and it's ridiculous because there's so many English-speaking foreigners moving here. And the anecdote that I shared with Paulo, Katia, and Katia before is that 2 years ago it was Abril 25, and it was joyous. It was a celebration. I was down in Rossio Square, and there was flags everywhere, and it was incredible and it was beautiful. And my foreign friends had no idea really what was going on, and it's a shame. It's a shame that people don't know about this, about the history of Portugal.
Well, yeah, sure. I'm 100%, 120% with you, for sure. It's a fact, and but it's not only outside of Portugal that people don't know the history of Portugal.
I agree.
Yeah, the problem is that even inside Portugal, the Portuguese people don't know the history of Portugal, and it's not by our fault, but because, as you said, we had a revolution, a military revolution in 1974, and well, it's normal because all the winners, the story is always told by the winner, who told they are who told the story, the winner, okay? And many things from the past has been erased or changed in a way provide how do I say justification. Thank you, Chris. To legitimate the actual regime. It's always the same with all the regimes. Since the monarchy and to the republic, it was because the monarchy was not good. Then the second republic, it was because the first one was not good. And now the third one is because the second one was not good. And maybe a fourth one, which will be because the third was not good. It's always the same argument, okay? But in fact, it's sad because we lost a lot of information during the 51 years, of course, of changing history. And the information that are available now, well, or is not completely true or completely false. It's the reality. And it's very difficult to obtain legitimate elements and searches for history, for the true about history, and it's not the fault of people, as I said. It's just because they don't have another source for knowing the history. The schools changed the history, the libraries. I can tell you that after the revolution in 1975, so the revolution was in 1974, of course, but the year after that, many books from libraries from university, for instance, Coimbra University, many of those books, by order of the Minister of the Education at the time, were destroyed fully. Okay, and it's sad, but it's true. Well,
Yeah. Well, Paulo, I'm not an academic. I'll tell you that. I'm just an enthusiast.
neither do I. Neither do I. No. Yeah.
You know, I sort of appreciate the sentiment of what you're saying. Of course, Victor's right, the history. And the way that I've described Salazar and the Estado Novo in my book is that Salazar, who was obviously the finance minister at the time in the 20s, he sort of the way I described it was he put oil on a rough water, and he stabilized the country and won a lot of he won a lot of laudatory. It was very laudatory that he did that. But the principal thing that he did was he kept your country out of World War II, which is obviously an extraordinary achievement, especially that he was wedged between the Axis and the Allies, both of whom had considered invading at one point. You know, Churchill had considered invading the Azores. Hitler had considered it in conjunction with Franco invading Spain. You know, and the fact that he was able to hold them off, I mean, obviously he achieved a lot with that. The problem that I see with him is that he then stayed on and things became stale. And all I can report, I mean, if you look at some of the data, it shows huge economic growth in the 50s and 60s. But if you look at other data, it shows that when he died in 71 and when his government was overthrown in 74, that Portugal was left with one of the highest infant mortality rates, one of the lowest literacy rates, and a completely deindustrialized nation. And of course, I mean, you know, we're not going to argue in favor of democracy or not, but there was no accountability.
No aspect, of course, prison.
Yeah, and the fact that he's murdering Delgado, what's his name? I'm sorry, the name of the Lisbon airport.
Humberto Delgado.
Exactly, Humberto Delgado, the border of Spain. I mean, that obviously suggests some level of anxiety from his military or his government. So, you know, but like I said, I'm not an academic. I'm presenting a sort of conventional view, I suppose, of what the history is. And the main thing I'm talking about when I talk about Salazar is, one, the achievements that he achieved, and then the staleness that he created in the country, and then the joy in the streets when he was overthrown. You know, the story of going to Praça do Carmo, in Convento in Lisbon. Where people are in the trees and people are standing on the military things, and the guys with the speakerphone demanding that the general comes out. You know, it's an extraordinary scene. and it was a happy scene.
Yeah.
You know, this was a military.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a military coup that overthrew this government, and all the people came into the streets. You know, it was the people. That would suggest that the people wanted to overthrow it, but I'm not an academic.
Now, you know, Chris, the problem is that's the official version, okay? And there are some truths in the middle of big lies, and so it's difficult because to decompose all those the right steps of the true of the story, it takes time. But it's okay for me. It's a wonderful opportunity even to help you and to help another people from to know the truth. The fact you are right. Salazar went to the government as a financial minister in 1926, the first time. He stayed for 5 days. The political environment was very difficult at the time. The president of the republic, the president was about to change, and so he decided to leave. In the end of 5 days, the Ministry of Finance Minister. He went back to Coimbra because he was a teacher in Coimbra in university. And in 1928, so 2 years later, the government asked him to come again to the same areas, the same ministry, the finance ministry. And so he presents a lot of conditions to accept the charge, okay? And one of them was all the expenses from all the other ministries must be approved by himself previously. No one can spend money without my previous approval. And in fact, he went in, let me think, in April. I think it was April. Well, it doesn't matter. In a matter of months, less than 1 year, he stabilized the finances in Portugal. It's true. It's a fact. Okay.
With currency
and he stay, and he stay in that job until 1940, I believe. But in the meantime, in 1932, the president of the republic asked him to be the prime minister. It was a different name, was president of Conselho, but it's the same. It's a prime minister, in fact. So he went to the government not by a revolution, not by elections, but because someone asked him to do that job, and he accepted. Okay, so that was the beginning, and then we have a lot. The history of Portugal on that period it's unbelievable, interesting. I used to say to Kate, you know what? If someone have the idea of doing a movie, a series, episodes of this period of history, it will be a huge, exit, because it's very rich. It's really very rich.
There was.
And then we have all that.
There was the TV show recently called Gloria.
I didn't know that. Well, yeah. I'm learning with you, Chris. I didn't know that.
There was a Portuguese Netflix series called Gloria, and it was set during the Salazar period in the 50s.
I didn't know that.
We have to see,
but anyway. Sorry?
You have to see the series on Netflix.
I can imagine. But then the problem is, Chris, as I told you, between the two, they put some lies. So the lie is not so evident. It's not, you can't see it so quickly because it's mixed with the truth. Okay. For instance, you mentioned Humberto Delgado, the question of Humberto Delgado, that apparently the official version is that PIDE, the secret police of the regime, killed Salazar, and that's true. That is a fact. Humberto Delgado, and that's the fact. It's true, but. We didn't know until today if elements of Communist Party were or not infiltrated on PIDE, because Humberto Delgado went to Argelia, okay, and in Argelia, where a group of dissidents from the regime, they used to be communists, they organized themselves on that area, and Humberto Delgado tried to get involved with that group, he was not accepted. They fight between them, okay, Humberto Delgado and the Argelian group. And we don't know until today if that group is not involved on the killing of the assassin of Humberto Delgado. Because in fact, the informations that Humberto Delgado had at the time were much more interesting for the government if he was alive than dead, okay? And it could be very dangerous for the Communist Party if he was alive and give that information from government, you know. So it's very complex, and the official version is very very smooth, very superficial, you know. You don't go to the bottom of the question. And when we start to go to the bottom, we start, find another things. Oh, so it was not like that. So, okay, so they didn't tell me that. Oh, that's why they do that. Okay, that kind of things. But as I tell you, speak with you for one day or two. I want to save you from that.
Well, I look forward to your criticism of my book.
No, Chris. And even the education and the health of the Portuguese, they start, you see, in the beginning of the Second Republic, the regime of Salazar, we have something like 77 or almost 80% of people that they don't know, write and read. And in the end of the regime, they were 22. So there was a tendency, to decrease. The death rate, the babies that used to die when they're born, that indicator is also going down. So, of course, it's not like today, but we have 51 years of innovation and technology and science and everything else. But the tendency, the you can see the line on the graphic going down. Okay. Of course, if I can say the same from the First Republic, and was a democratic period, I can say, look, in the First Republic, the education was not even there, it's zero. So, but we have to see the context, okay, and then we can take a judgment, make a judgment, and take some conclusions of that. But I don't want to take the monopoly of this conversation. Thank you, Chris. Sorry.
Paulo, don't scare Chris out.
No, not at all. Paulo, I look forward to
Chris are scared now.
Sorry, Chris.
Not at all, Paula. I look forward to having this conversation in person. I would like to have this conversation.
Yes.
Chris, are you second guessing the launch of
Not at all. Not at all. I enjoy this.
Well, Chris,
I'm sorry, Chris.
Not at all. Nothing to be sorry about.
Let me present you to another member of this Alma Café crew. It's our Custódio. Custódio will not open he's not able to open his camera for us, but let me check if he's listening and if he wants to join the conversation, and he can present himself and explain to you why his name is Custódio, because I don't know if you know this, but this is a really very important part also of our Portuguese heritage and history. Custódio, boa noite. Good evening.
Hello. Boa noite. Conseguem ouvir?
Perfeitamente.
Yes, Custódio.
Hi, Chris. Sorry, I joined very late. I heard that you wrote a book and just want to congratulate you because it's quite interesting to see that foreigners are starting to discover Portugal, and not only to discover it, but getting in love with our history, our culture, and taking you to investigate and learn more about all the heritage that we have. It's quite nice to see, to take you to write a book about Portugal. It's really awesome.
Thank you.
I just joined with hearing a bit of Paul referring to this new republic that we have. And I really believe that it's quite hard these days to try to get a real source of what happened on that time. So only when you start scratching, you'll find all the goodness that was that revolution. When you go deep on it, you'll see that it was just the opposite way. But I don't want to steal Paul's speech, because that's his part. He's the specialist on that. For the challenge that Katia said, well, Custódio, just for awareness, is the name of the guardian angel of Portugal. And basically it was an entity that, according to the rare history that we have about it, because it's very few documentation that we can find from former times, it appeared on the Battle of Santarém, when Dom Afonso Henriques tried to conquest that town. So Santarém was a very, very important town on that time, bigger than Lisbon, and it was a huge thing when that happened. So
I know the story. he scaled the wall.
Exactly. And well, there was they say that they saw, I don't know what part is true and what part is just I don't know if it's legend in English. So mythology, that the right arm of the Saint Michael's angel or archangel showed in the sky, and well, that could start on the mythology part, and that translates somehow to what Custódio is, while Custódio is a different vibration of the archangel Michael, so, or Michael, I don't know how you call it in English. Because some folks, you can see several folks saying, well, it's not the same, and some folks saying it's the same, and you have representations of both. But the truth is that it's not the same and is the same at the same time, because it's a different vibration of the same entity, because Custódio doesn't have any arm, okay? While Michael has the firing sword, the Custódio, his arms are the arms of Portugal. And when I call arms, is the shield of Portugal, the emblazoned shield that we have. That is the arm. That is why it's a completely different vibration, a more subtle and elevated vibration of what is that prince of the celestial military that we can call it. So it is an entity that defends the realm, basically. Okay, so this was the challenge from Katia, and just as an introduction. So I brought as an avatar the Custódio as my representation on X when I joined it.
I did not know this story. That's very interesting.
Thank you, Custódio. Custódio, Chris told us tonight an history that I didn't knew about Vasco da Gama.
I might have made it up.
And I need to check with you, Custódio, because you know that you are our history, como é que se diz, especialista?
Specialist.
I'm not a specialist at all.
O Cris está a aprender português. A próxima vez que o Cris vier ao Alma Café, só falamos português. Custódio, Chris told us about that. I asked him to share with us a special moment from his trips across Portugal, and he told us about when he went to Alentejo, and that he chose on Google Maps a specific place to go, and like magic, this place was the house of Vasco da Gama. And then he went and took a tour and to know the place, and the person that showed him the place explained to him that we took the wrong bones to Jerónimos. And actually, Vasco da Gama is still buried on that same village in Alentejo, under that same house. Can you please confirm, Gustavo? You that know all the truth about
Well,
our Portuguese history.
you have all those kind of narratives. I can't say what is true or what is not. It's very tough to enter on that discussion unless we do any DNA exams. Without it, well, it's just each own fault trying to say, well, what I have here on my backyard is much better than yours. So, and that is a normal story that people tell us about it. And Chris, I'm not saying it's not true, but it could be. It really could be. Yeah, for sure.
Just to put some detail around that, is that it was the Quinta do Carmo outside of Vidigara, which was Vasco da Gama's house, which was where he was buried. But his bones were moved in 1898 to Jerónimos Monastery, and the owner of the Quinta today says they took the wrong bones. So they were there. The fact is that they were there.
From a cat.
The question is, are they still there?
Do they know from who was taken? Who was the body that they took?
The cat or the dog of the owner?
Yeah, the argument by the owner was that, I mean, they'd been buried there for 300 years or 400 years. Is that the argument was there were a lot of bones, and the thing about Vasco da Gama's bones, because he'd been buried in Goa for 30 years before Portuguese brought him back. Yeah. His bones had been stained yellow by the Goan soil, so they were distinctive. But the yellow bones weren't taken. So,
okay, makes sense.
I mean, it sounds logical, but I didn't see the bones. So
that would be something interesting to write about, Chris.
I did. I wrote a book about it.
Okay. Nice.
It's on the book.
Okay.
It's on the Meet the Tugas book. Well, guys, we are coming close to the end of this episode. I still have 2 or 3 questions for you, Chris, if you allow me.
Please.
So, what's your favorite Portuguese word?
Oh God, I wish you did. This is the toughest question because I don't speak Portuguese, unfortunately. Não consigo falar português, but I don't know what my favorite Portuguese word is, but I don't know. Como se dice? You're consented to build this. Whatever that statement is.
I'm sorry, come again?
You have consent to build this. Whatever. If there's a word for that, then from the municipality.
Autorização.
Yeah. So
it's a good
word for that. If there's a word for that, that is my favorite word.
Construir isto.
Your favorite Portuguese dish, Chris?
Bacalhau à Brás.
Bacalhau à Brás.
Bacalhau à Brás, yeah.
I have that for dinner today.
There you go. Yours too, Paula.
Bacalhauzinho à Brás. And a sentence that sums up your experience in Portugal till today.
Oh God.
Yeah, and different than the previous one.
Different to the previous one, yeah.
From you got authorization to build this.
yeah, exactly. That is. You don't have authorization to build it. A sentence to sum it up. I wish I could tell you, Kathy. I wish I could tell you something deep and meaningful. But I would say that this country is. The people are gentle. The place is welcoming. Life is easy, life is enjoyable, the sun is always out, the food is natural, and it's a beautiful entry point into Europe.
Chris, our last question to you, and this one is from all the panel of Alma Café. It is our signature question for every guest we welcome to our space or to our podcast. What's your soul saying right now? What's in your soul? O que te vai na alma, Chris?
That I should be in our farm and drinking beers at Centros Populares.
Yeah.
Grande
what my soul says.
Take me with you, Chris. I miss Santos Populares. I really miss it. Chris, thank you so much. Your book is coming out. No, you told me today is the pre-sales, right? But the official launch day.
I have a question.
Yes, Paulo.
Please.
I have something. I forgot to. It's about our conversation, the subject that we are speaking about. Let me ask you something, Chris. Did you know that Humberto Delgado was a huge fan of Mussolini, and that
No, I
he
didn't.
introduced? You didn't know that, and he introduced the Roman gesture of with the hand like Nazis army, in the youth of Portugal, and Salazar took it off because it was not according to the policy of the regime. And one of the greatest arguments that he had against the government was that the regime of Salazar was not close enough to the Mussolini regime.
Yeah, Salazar was too soft.
Too soft, right?
Was too soft for this guy. Yeah. So you can see. Sometimes the new history it built heroes and figures about some men or women just for a political purpose. Convenient. I mean, it's convenient for them to build a new hero, and they forgot that history is there, and they try to erase it. Okay.
Which is true
Normally,
everywhere.
yeah, it's true everywhere. The main opposition to the regime of Salazar, it didn't come from the Communist Party, as they say, because they are not so many as that. It comes from inside the regime. Humberto Delgado, Henrique Galvão, it was the one that made the golpe in '61, the Ministry of Defense, Botelho Muniz. All of them come from inside the regime. They are big figures inside the regime. And normally, they decided to become oppositors to the regime when some personal achievements were denied by the regime. For instance, Humberto Delgado, he wants to be governor of the provinces in Africa, and he was not allowed to do that. Then he has to go to the bank of Ultramarino. It was a bank from Africa, a Portuguese bank in Africa also, and he was denied also. And after all that 2 or 3 requests denied from the government, he decided to be against the government. And all the history is more or less the same with the other figures that I point to, Henrique Galvão. All of them have something personal against the regime and not against the politic of the regime. But I can explain. I am very pleased to explain you that in a later opportunity because it's going to be a long talk. No, yeah, it's better we don't speak now. Let's say that Chris. Let's Chris have some books sold, and then we will see. Okay, Chris, no problem.
So Chris,
I tell you, Paulo will soon
critically review my book.
Will soon.
No.
Better not.
In fact, Chris, better not. I explain you why, Chris. It's better you don't change nothing, because if you're going to put all the things that I'm telling you and other ones even worse, you don't going to sell one of them. So let's stay like that, because at least you make it.
It's a better idea.
Or the other way around. So Chris, you have 2 options to go on when you talk about 25 de Abril. Or you go with the fancy and fluffy and sugar-coated version of it. Yeah, it was the nicest thing. It brought liberty to us all. We're now super happy, and we jump in clouds, and we see the rainbows and all of that. Or you go through the other path. You tell the truth, and you got in real tough situations where you need to justify all of that. And for
I went with option 1.
Yeah, so all the rainbows and gems on the clouds, that is the way to go
That is
for.
the way to go, Chris. That is the way to go. Listen, I
Let it go, Chris.
believe that if you keep in touch with Paulo, you will have a next book to publish, perhaps in
knows?
1 year, after having some classes with Paulo. He gives us all classes. So if you want to join the troop,
Oh, come
please
on.
stay in touch. Well, listen, guys, we really need to go. Thank you so much to the Alma Café panel that could join today. Chris, I hope you enjoyed our conversation and to be here with us at Alma Café. But I still need to listen from you. What is in your soul right now, Chris? O que é que te vai na alma?
Eu já.
Tu já? Não, mas eu não ouvi. O que é que te vai na alma?
Já disse
Já disse?
que quer ir aos Santos Populares tomar cerveja.
Ah, pois é, pá,
Yeah.
Chris. Sabes
Yeah.
porquê?
You are not paying attention.
I also wanted to go with you, Chris. I also wanted to go with you. I cannot take the plane and go and join you on Santos Populares. That's why my memory just discards what you said. That's why. I'm so sorry. Well, Chris, it was really a pleasure to meet you. I will buy your book as soon as I land or I arrive in Lisbon, because I'm going to be driving. I'm not going with the plane in a couple of weeks. So as soon as I arrive in Lisbon, I will buy your book.
Thank you very
so
much, Kathy.
Thank you for writing about us in English, so everyone in the world can at least read something about Portugal and about our culture.
I hope everyone buys and reads it in the world.
They will.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much,
Chris.
guys. Have a nice
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Have a nice beer.
Thank you.
Lunch.